From folklore and fairies
to monsters and mysteries, it came from the Maritimes.
Hi everyone, welcome to It Came From The Maritimes, an Atlantic Canada folklore podcast. I'm Chelsea and this is my co-host Evan.
Howdy.
We have a Maritime mini for you today. Northeast of Truro is the Gully Lake Wilderness Area. It has a rich forest which provides a habitat for a variety of plant and animal species. For almost 60 years, it was also the refuge for the Hermit of Gully Lake, a man by the name of Willard Macdonald. Now, Willard is a very real man who did live in that area, but his story, because he was relatively unseen, has inspired a bit of folklore. So we're going to chat about him today. Evan, have you ever heard of Willard?
I haven't. It sounds interesting, though.
It is. I watched a documentary about him, and I had briefly heard about him years prior in the news, but he has an interesting tale, so I'd like to share it today.
Sounds great.
Willard was born on August 13th, 1916 in Massachusetts. He was a peaceful man, so when he was conscripted to fight in World War II in 1944, he was appalled at the idea of participating in battle. He was on a train heading to Halifax to await being sent overseas when he decided to jump off, unable to fathom the thought of fighting another human. The area where he jumped was next to Gully Lake. It's kind of near Truro, if that gives you an idea of where it is in Nova Scotia if you're not familiar.
Yeah.
He found the area beautiful and decided to settle there while he waited out the war. He built a 2-meter wide shack all by himself. His only possessions were his books, his collections of writing, a homemade guitar, and a .303 rifle. Canada declared amnesty for military deserters in 1950, but Willard chose to remain at Gully Lake. The community of Colchester County knew he was a kind man, and they made an effort to finance the building of a small cabin for him closer to town. Willard lived there for a short while, but he ended up returning to his shack in the woods. He had gotten used to the isolation and didn't want to live too close to others after all his years alone. He mentioned to the few folks that he interacted with that he loved music and found the sound of traffic distracted him from his compositions. Willard made infrequent appearances in town. About once a month, he would hike 12 kilometers to Earltown to buy his needed supplies. He earned the money to do so by selling animal pelts. He used his rifle and trapped animals, but would only trap enough to allow his humble lifestyle. Willard ended up returning to the cabin that had been built for him by the townsfolk after his shack was sadly destroyed by a forest fire. And unfortunately, he became ill shortly after that. The community members found out about Willard's sickness, and they sought medical attention for him. Ultimately, he chose to not accept the help. He disappeared into the nearby forest, and even though it was winter and there was thick snow on the ground, he was able to easily hide his tracks because he was so used to living in the woods that he knew the ways of nature. Willard's body was found on June 27, 2004, in the woods near Gully Lake. Volunteers from the community had searched the area for him, concerned when they hadn't seen him in months. Willard was 87 years old at the time of his passing, and it's believed that he died from natural causes or hypothermia. Willard once said, "The world is so out there. You have to respect a man who didn't necessarily understand or want to live in the world at large, but he found peace and a long, satisfying life in his own little slice of the universe." So what do you think of Willard's tale?
Honestly, it's obviously sad that he passed away, but he lived until 87, so it's not like he lived a short life or anything. It sounds like he just kind of was happy.
That's it. It sounds like he had, in the grand scheme of things, a pretty decent thing going for himself.
Yeah, can't blame him.
Yeah, it's a little different from the stories I usually share, but I found his story was interesting, and it's one of those tales that I thought would be nice to share.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, thank you everyone for joining us for this episode of It Came From The Maritimes. You can find us on social media, on Instagram and Facebook at It Came From The Maritimes, on X at ICFT Maritimes, and please email us at itcamefromthemaritimes@gmail.com if you have any Atlantic Canada folklore you'd like to see covered in a future episode or any spooky encounters of your own. If you enjoy our podcast, please give us a nice 5-star review and rating so it helps other people find us. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.